Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Ben 10 Retrospectives, and today we're going to be looking at what the DVDs say is episode 28 of the original Ben 10 series, Ben 10,000, and I've been looking forward to this episode for a while, as I will freely admit it's one of my favorite episodes, and just for the title alone I think you can understand why, but I might as well just summarize anyway. The episode starts with Ben and Gwen arguing over Max's birthday because Gwen set up a list of all these of how the birthday was going to go, all these things that she and Ben were going to get, and literally the only thing that she said Ben was supposed to get was the cakes, but Ben didn't get it. So just they're about to have a rock paper scissors to try and decide who will get it now. A portal opens and this strange woman in blue flies out, grabs Gwen, and flies back. So Ben goes accelerate and runs into the portal after her, but only when they come out the other side and he knocks the woman out and gets Gwen, it turns out that they are in the future, which is not really much of a twist because we see it. It's pretty much revealed that they're in the future like 10 seconds after they go in, as everyone refers to Ben as Ben, as everyone seems to know who Ben is. They call him Ben 10K, and right behind him is a giant statue of an adult Ben called Ben 10,000. But quickly thereafter, this criminal, whose name is Exo Skull, who is a villain in Omniverse, but this is his first appearance, so, and I don't watch Omniverse, so, I didn't watch Omniverse anyway. He appears, Ben times out before he can officially fight him, but then the woman defends them, but she's taken out by Exo Skull when suddenly something comes in, something fast, that just takes out Exo Skull with a few hits, and it's revealed that it is Ben 10,000 as Accelerate, and his Accelerate now looks a bit sleeker, it's more gray, not as, well, I think more kind of commando-ish, I think. I don't know, but I like the look. But the instant he seems to know the woman in blue, but when he sees Ben and Gwen, he just tells them, get them out of here. Ben tries to get friendly with his adult self, but his adult self pretty much tells him to piss off and run until he runs off. And when Gwen, of course, about to make a comment, but the woman says she and the adult woman say the exact same thing, that Ben could lose the attitude. And Gwen puts together that this woman in blue is actually herself as an adult, who goes by the name of Gwendolyn. And I think for the rest of this, and that's what I'm going to be calling them for the rest of this vlog, Ben 10,000 Gwendolyn, to help distinguish them from their younger counterparts. So the reason Gwendolyn says that she came back in time to get Ben, but the reason she just grabbed Gwen and ran off was because she remembered that Ben's listening skills kind of sucked when he was a kid, so she just decided to get his attention some other way. So she says that the reason that she brought him here was because there's a crisis looming that Ben 10,000 can't handle on his own, but she's not going to reveal what it is. And at that moment, we see future Max come in, who I might as well just call Max, because he's really the only one we ever see. He's mostly the only one you ever see in the episode. He drives up in the rust bucket, which on the outside looks exactly the same, but Max now is obviously older. He's got a beard now, and we see the inside of the rust bucket, which now looks more technologic and blue. And so Max flies off in it with Ben and Gwen, and it turns out that where they're going is a place called Fort DNX, because before Max arrived, Gwendolyn got an alert saying that there was a break-in there. And so they head there, but Max doesn't follow because apparently Ben 10,000 has not needed him for a while, so everyone else goes in. Ben goes stinkfly when he wanted to go forearms, and they see Ben 10,000 as forearms himself fighting who broke in, and it turns out that the person who broke in was this time's Dr. Animo, and yes, it is still awesome. Though I don't know if he is allowed to be as hammy as he is in other episodes, but it's still kind of cool because now in the future, for some reason, all he has is just a head. Like, you can tell he's older, but there's a scar running down one of his eyes, and instead of being out, it's just bug-eyed, and while the other one's just kind of it's just nice. It's just kind of nice. It's just nice, and his head is attached to a giant gorilla body, so of course he's now packing more strength. But Ben 10,000 quickly locks Ben down by tying a pipe around Stinkfly's tail. Ben 10,000 goes in to fight, and we see more we see him fighting more, and we see how he actually is a very skilled fighter, because since he's mastered the secrets of the Omnitrix, he can now switch between his aliens at will. He's able to use different abilities in certain ways, work some powers, exaggerate some powers, or if one's not working, he can just quickly switch to one that is. And in this case, we actually wind up seeing two aliens that we have never seen Ben use. One is this giant lizard thing that can blow its head up and do a spit, and one is a megawatt. And one is a megawatt that shoots green electricity. But Ben is able to. So Ben 10,000 is able to subdue Animo, but when Ben starts asking about his aliens because he thinks that they're awesome, he asks about some of the new ones, to which Ben 10,000 says he doesn't name them anymore. Because that's just childish. They're pets. So he ties up Animo, and we see the Galactic Enforcers in this world, and we see more Ben 10,000's douchebaggery as he also tells them to piss off, saying that what's the point of letting them do anything if they're just going to screw up. So he lets them take care of Animo, bring him to the Null Void, while he takes Ben and Gwen to his headquarters. And on the way there, he explains what's been going on, that Dr. Animo's been around for a few years, and that some of his other villains, namely Vilgax, are not around anymore. And as in the case of Vilgax, he says he left him in pieces. But as this is going on, it turns out that Dr. Animo broke into Fort DNA X, because at first it was assumed that he was in there to get DNA samples of each of Ben's aliens. It turns out he was only in there for one. It turns out he gasses the Galactic Enforcers, because it looks like he expected to be caught. And that once they're gone, he goes over to a pod, rips it open, and it turns out that inside is what is left of Vilgax, which he promptly revives using some kind of laser. So Ben 10,000 brings Ben and Gwen to his headquarters. He still kind of has he's not being nice to he's not being nice to them. Ben's refusing to listen. Ben is getting more and more irritated at the fact that his older self is this jerk, and Ben 10,000 is just having none of Ben's antics. But Gwendolyn quickly shows up, and then an alert goes off about how the Null Void projector in Ben 10,000's headquarters is apparently being breached. So Ben 10,000 goes to take care of it, and it turns out Dr. Animo's there. But just before Ben 10,000 can take care of him, Vilgax comes in looking doesn't look as buff, but he still looks very strong, breathing apparatus, and he quickly fights them. The rest of Gwendolyn, Ben, and Gwen come down. Ben quickly goes off to join Ben 10,000 while the Gwens take care of Animo. And so when Ben goes to help his older counterpart, of course he still tells him to get out, but Ben just outright tells him, whatever, it doesn't matter what's going on, if this is your fight, it's mine too. And Ben 10,000 rather easily concedes, as he decides to just give him a helping hand, as prior to the battle he wanted to go for him, but instead went upgrade. So Ben 10,000 taps a symbol of the Omnitrix on him and transforms him into Cannonbolt, something that Ben learns to do by himself in other series. So both Bens try battling Vilgax while the Gwens battle Animo, and on both sides they are putting up strong fights, but the villain is gaining the upper hand in both. While the Gwens are holding themselves off, Animo is still getting close, and the Null Void projector is opening up more and more, and Vilgax himself seems to be able to counter whatever either Ben throws at him, because apparently he's downloaded all the moves of all of Ben's aliens, and can predict everything. But just where Vilgax got off them, Max shows up, hits him with a laser, because they're in Mount Rushmore. Yeah, his headquarters is in Mount Rushmore, so odds are he went there. Ben tells him to go help the Gwens, but Vilgax knocks him off the tower, and it looks like they're pretty much screwed. But Ben tells his older counterpart that that if he can know how all of his other aliens fight, maybe he should pull something from that maybe he should fight as himself instead. And so Ben 10,000 heeds that advice, and he transforms into his human form, and I love the design of Ben 10,000 as well. I like the futuristic look. I like it still incorporates many of original factors, like the shirt's just a reverse. He's got a beard. He has combat boots, and I think my favorite feature is the Omnitrix, which now doesn't even look like how it does. Like, it's obviously the same thing, but it's now bigger. It takes up almost half of his arm. It's It's also it's covering his hand. It's still obviously the same device, but it's obviously changed. So Ben 10,000 distracts Vilgax because he's Ben, and of course he likes to make and he decides and he does all these things to distract Vilgax to chase after him. And thus, when he gets in a position he wants, he uses the giant lizard alien, who I might as well just say what he is, what he's named later, Spitter. He to push him toward the leg. Ben gives him more assist, and then when he's inside, he goes into another lizard alien, Arctic Guana, and freezes the water that Vilgax fell into, freezing him in place. And meanwhile, the Gwens and Max all take care of Animo, and in the end, it turns out that it's Max's 80th birthday here, and Gwen figured quietly with Gwendolyn says that it turns out that Gwendolyn only brought Ben here because there was no crisis. I don't think she was aware of what Animo and Vilgax were going to do. It's just that she wanted Ben 10,000 there for Grandpa Max's birthday, and being how he was, he needed something to help remind him of who he was. So she went back and got Ben. So yeah, she opens a portal back to the present because they still need to celebrate Max's 60th birthday. And then Ben 10,000 thanks Ben for what he's done and gives him something extra. And so when they go back in time, Ben and Gwen wish Max a happy birthday, and turns out that something extra was the cake that Ben forgot to get. So yeah, I just went nuts with the plot here, and honestly, and I know I spoiled this, but I kind of went into more detail here. But that's really because this is one of my favorite episodes. I've kind of gotten this episode. I've got everything just down a lot up here. So I kind of like to just keep everything on. I like to keep everything in. I like to keep track of everything. But anyway, I will admit right now that this is still one of my favorite episodes. But I will admit it's not as perfect as I thought it was. I think the biggest flaw for me is that things just seem to move a little quickly for this episode. Like plot lines are resolved a little quickly. Ben 10,000 becomes nice a little too easily. And we don't really see much of... And while it is cool seeing Vilgax and Animo, two of the best villains in this show, coming together, not really much is done with them. Not really much is done with them except for fight scenes, which, again, the fight scenes are cool, and I like seeing... And of course, if someone has to give Ben 10,000 a dose of reality, Vilgax is the best villain to do it, but... It's just that it feels like they were a little underutilized in that regard. But with that being said, I think everything else makes up for it. I love the design of the future. It's very, of course, it still incorporates many of those things you would see in futures, like hoverboards, future multicolored cities, but it really, I love how they kind of make it unique in its own regard. The buildings are, there are all these different colored buildings. You see all these different aliens and people around. So many of them are just kind of wandering. You see all these different, I guess, Japanese kanji all over the place. And all these different colors. I like seeing Ben 10,000. I like seeing Ben 10,000 and his aliens, which I think are all really nice, because all of them are different in some way, because Ben 10,000 is older. And so, as such, all of his aliens are older, and in some cases, their designs are just slightly different, like with just a change of clothes, like with Accelerate, sometimes there is a bit of difference, there's just a little bit of a difference, like Forearms, his clothes are different, and he has fangs pointing up, or with Heat Blast, who just has extra fire stacks on his shoulders, or in many cases there are or in some cases the design, while still having taste of the original, are just a bit of departure, like with adult Stinkfly, who is still a Stinkfly, but his eyes are bigger, his legs are bigger. It's just really unique, and I like seeing them, and I love the designs of all these different future versions. I like seeing Animo as this giant ape thing while still being his crazy self. I like seeing Vilgax, and I will admit that Vilgax's original design, namely the ones with the giant spikes in his arms, is still my favorite. This one is still pretty intimidating in itself. I love the design of Gwendolyn, which kind of helps emphasize what was hinted at in Tough Luck, that Gwen is would become a master sorceress someday, and she somehow has the charms of Bazelle. It's explained in other media, in backup media, which I have not looked at, so I'm not gonna recount it here. Max has a robotic arm, which you don't know how he got. But it's just really fun. It's just really fun. I love the designs of these. I like seeing the interactions of them. I like seeing that Ben 10,000 is a bit of a hard ass compared to Ben 10's little chipper attitude. And I do kind of like seeing Ben 10. I like seeing both attitudes kind of come together and help and just and. Actually, I did kind of mention how I think Ben 10,000 went a little quickly, but in some cases, I still kind of like seeing that. And again, it also kind of helps show Ben's strengths. Because I mentioned how Ben's kind of a very creative character, how he can, even without his superpowers, he can find ways to get everything to go his way. Well, let's exemplify with Ben 10,000. I mentioned how he has how he can just switch between his aliens with a thought. Well, that's what he does in battle. He just, again, he switches between them at will. If one alien's not working, he goes to one that can switch. That can do it well. He knows how to utilize the abilities, and then when he's about to be cornered by Vilgax with just the simple reminder by his 10-year-old counterpart about how they used to work, he's able to turn back into a human and find a way to outmaneuver Vilgax. Well, outmaneuver Vilgax and get him into a position that he wants him to get to, where he and Ben can just take him out. And it's really nice and it's really creative, and I like seeing that. And yeah, I like the moral is not. It's the moral. I do kind of like the moral where Ben 10,000 has to learn to be kinder. Like Gwendolyn, like he's obviously his relationship has just gotten worse with his family. He's now just now 24/7 hero, but now it's pretty much just you just need to have some time to yourself and relax. Like you can be business, but you need to have time where you can just calm down. And yeah, I think that's really kind of the meat of it. I'm going nuts over this episode, and there's not much really. And really, there is a bit to it, but not a lot. It's not as much as I'm making it out to be, but just all these things together is just really nice, and I like seeing this episode. And while I'm on this, I might as well talk about the three aliens that we see: Spitter, Buzzshock, who is the Megawatt, which is the name that we eventually is given to the Megawatt alien, and Arctiguana. Spitter, I think, is a bit just kind of I mean, that's mostly because it's just really what he is, a spitter. That's all his only power. He spits. So yeah, there's not really much to him. Buzzshock, I just love electrical powers, and seeing the megawatts, it was still fun to see them. It's just fun to see them being utilized by them. And Arctiguana is just well, as Ben 10,000 puts it, is cool. It is very straightforward and It's just very straightforward and simple with a nice sleek design, a nice voice. It's just raspy but still kind of cold. Well, just kind of being able to. And it's nothing big, but it's still nice. So yeah, this is definitely Again, this is it's still one of my favorite episodes. There's nothing really big to it. It's just a fun little episode. There's nothing. It's just fun, and I love fun. And I love fun episodes. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Samuel Johnson, and tune in next week where we celebrate my birthday. Or if you don't care about that, then you may do other, and then you could probably just look forward to the next vlog. So, or the inauguration, which I probably won't be watching, but that's political opinions, and I don't like bringing those up here. So, anyway, again, thank you all for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I will see you next week. Take care.